Hey guys, so today I'm going to do a quick rundown on suppressors, right? About a year ago, they started getting approved much faster. The NFA with the suppressors, with the SBRs. Some people are getting approved in 36 hours. Some people are getting approved in a couple of weeks, but it's definitely better than a year, year and a half, and in some extreme cases, even 2 years. But as you start looking at suppressors, in the last year, I've learned a great deal about them, right? So there's a couple of things we need to look at. One is, what is your intended use? Do you want a suppressor for hunting? Do you want your suppressor for the range, doing tactical training and that sort of stuff? Both are going to be really cool. Both are going to lower the sound, and they are also going to protect your ears and those around you, right? But what makes a suppressor good or bad? What makes one more expensive than the other? What materials, what brands should I be looking at? Well, here I have a bunch of different variations from different brands, different materials, different calibers, and so forth. So let's talk a little bit about each of these in general, right? Without saying which one is better, which one is worse, and so forth. Now that you figured out I want a suppressor, the thing is, what caliber, right? The most common that you're going to find there are 30 cals. 30 cals is 7.62 millimeters. What that means is that the diameter of the baffles where the projectiles are going to go through are 7.62 millimeter. That's 30 cal. So your 308, your 7.6251, your AK-47 7.62 by 39, your 300 blackout 7.62 by 35 are going to work right through it perfectly, right? Now, you can also put smaller rounds through it. So if you have a 5.56, a 2.23, if you have even a 5.7, you can put through those 30 cals, because 5.56 millimeter, its diameter is smaller than 5.62 millimeter, right? That makes sense. Now, the next thing is, what am I going to put it on? What is the firearm that I'm going to put it on? If I'm going to put it on a firearm, do I have the muzzle device for it? Now, here is one of the muzzle devices that you could potentially use. If you remove the current muzzle device that you have on your firearm, you would just have threads, right? Some of these are direct thread onto that barrel, and you will be able to use no problem. But the moment that you take out that suppressor, you're no longer going to have a muzzle device. So it's not going to operate at its optimum. So at that point, you need to figure it out. Do I want to put a muzzle device on it that I can use with or without a suppressor? So if I put a muzzle device that I can use when I'm not suppressed, right? Which muzzle device am I going to go with? And that will depend on the thread pitch of the actual barrel, right? 5.56 will have a thread pitch. Anything that is 7.62, like the calibers I mentioned earlier, will have its own thread pitch. And then when you go into pistols, they have their own thread pitch. So you may have to find a device, a muzzle device, that will have the thread pitch you want to go onto the barrel, and that will have the thread pitch you need for the suppressor to go onto it. So this could be, a 5.56 thread pitch barrel, but the thread pitch here will be, for one that you can use a 30 cal can on it. So my recommendation so far to people has been, buy one that has the muzzle device included in the package. That is a little bit more expensive because you're paying for the muzzle device on top of the suppressor, but you're going to save yourself a whole lot of headaches of trying to figure out what muzzle device do I need in order to be able to use my firearm with and without the suppressor. Especially if you're one of those people that say, okay, I want to change my suppressor from firearm to firearm so I can use it, you know, multiple guns. Fair enough, right? So with that being said, now let's talk about materials. There's a couple of different materials out there. Titanium is probably one of the best, is lighter, is durable, right? But it's often not rated for a high frequency of shooting. In other words, if you shoot a lot, it's going to get hot quickly. That is not to say that if you shoot a lot over time, it's if you shoot a lot in one seating. So let's say you're out of the range and you're doing mag dumps. You know, the quality of the suppressor will start making a difference if it heats up and could potentially crack and break, or if it stays cooler for a longer period of time and you can continue to use it. That's where you get this, you know, automatic rated suppressors. Now, that is not to say that you're going to be firing out of an automatic firearm. Maybe you are, but most of us civilians, we don't have automatic firearms. We have semi-automatic. But if you're out there in the range and you're doing tactical training and you're shooting 100 rounds in 30 minutes and you're going through quickly, you know, 3 magazines of 30 rounds, to a total of 90 rounds in a sequence of fire, well, that suppressor will start getting hot. So going with a automatic rated suppressor will probably be more suited for that sort of shooting. Versus, let's say you're out there hunting. And when you're hunting, you're going to fire 1 or 2 rounds every, I don't know, however long, right? It's extended period of time. The suppressor is not going to get that hot and you're not going to have an issue. But if you're shooting 90 rounds in a sequence of fire with that lighter titanium, what have you, it can potentially damage the suppressor faster than otherwise, right? With that being said, the fully rated for automatic suppressor are going to be thicker. They are going to be heavier. So keep that in mind. So you know you're going to have that weight up front on your firearm, right? You may or may not want to do that. It's up to you. If you go with a lighter suppressor, then in that case, you are going to have, you know, the sequence of fire is going to have to be slower and it's going to be spaced out, right? So another thing to keep in mind. The other thing is length. The longer the can, the more it will baffle, the more it will suppress the sound, right? So here I have, you know, a 30 cal K, relatively short, will baffle, will work well, but it is not going to be super quiet. Then we go to the same can that is a little bit longer. This will be a little bit quieter than this, but it's longer and it's heavier. And finally, out of these 3 that come in this kit, this is a 30 cal as well, and it's much longer, will baffle more, will suppress that sound better, right? Now, let's take a step back and see the thread pitch back here, right? So this is a 30 cal, and the thread pitch on this is 5/8 by 24, which means that it will go on a 7.62 308 thread pitch, and it will be affixed there with no muzzle device. But this one comes with a kit where I am able to remove this hub. I wish I could fast forward this. Remove this hub, and then I can take a 1.5 by, what is it called? 1.5 by 28. I really can't see, right? But 1.5. And that will go on here. But now the diameter of this opening as compared to this is smaller. This one is for your 5.56. So it will be a fixed, but again, we go back to it. You don't have one of these muzzle devices. Now, if you wanted to have a muzzle device on it, then you would have to find the correct muzzle device that will attach to your rifle, and then will be able to attach to your can. So you can see this one will simply not work here. All right. So the length will make the suppressor quieter or not. Now, when you're shooting suppressed, you're going to get gas coming back at you. It's just the nature of how these things work. The more gas you're getting back at you, the quieter it's usually going to be. But the more gas you're getting, it's toxin, right? When you get something like this that is flow through, now with the flow through system, you will allow more of the gases to escape out the front and not so much coming back at you. Now, that won't be as quiet, but you're also not getting toxin at your face, which is a good thing. Now, this one here it came with this muzzle device. So this muzzle device will go onto your firearm and then will go onto the suppressor. Now, with that being said, I can now use the gun with the suppressor or without the suppressor while having a muzzle device. Now, this other one here is heavier than, let's say, this flow. As you can see, it is about the same length. But what happens is, being heavier, like I mentioned earlier, you will withstand a higher rate of fire at a faster, a shorter period of time as opposed to this, right? Now, you can also change the tip out of here to allow more gas out, more gas to come back or whatever. You can also take this hub out that will go on your rifle, right? And put any of the other ones. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind. Now, there's also the finish. Here we have a Thrash Panda that comes in this unique, their own stuff. Here we have a black one. Here we have an FDE and so forth. As some of you know, we partner with A Really Bad Design and we do Cerakoting finish on suppressor and a number of things. Now, there is only certain colors that we can use on suppressors because of the temperature. Certain Cerakote class of paint is rated for higher temperature, like you would put on an engine block or an exhaust system of a car, you will put on the suppressors because they will get very, very hot. So it is not something that we can do camouflage and a bunch of other stuff. We will be able to only do single color. Now, there are suppressors that are specific for 5.56. With that being said, if it's 5.56 specific, you will be quieter on a 5.56 or a 2.23 as opposed to using a 7.62, 30 cal, 300 black cal, whatever. But as you can see, same barrel length, right? If I were to use this 5.56 on a 5.56 barrel, it will be quieter than if I were to use a 7.62 can on a 5.56 barrel, right? Because of the diameter. So keep that in mind if what you're looking for. But then again, if I have a 300 blackout, I can use this on a 300 blackout, and I can also use it on my 5.56, so long as I have the proper muzzle device. While the 5.56 will only work on a 5.56 and smaller calibers than 5.56. I will not be able to use it on my 300 blackout. You know, does that make sense? Now, when we go into pistol if you're using it on your actual handgun, let's say you're going to go with a 9mm. The 9mm needs back pressure in order to cycle. So this one here has a number of baffles that can, let's see if I can do it. Yeah, that can break off. So it's modular. So this one has 7 baffles. I can take as many baffles off as I want. The more baffle I have, the quieter it will be. The less baffle, the more sound it will make. But if my firearm is not cycling properly because I'm not getting enough pressure, I simply remove a baffle until it cycles properly. So that means is that I don't have to figure out what is the correct ammunition, what is the perfect ammunition to work with my pistol and suppressor combination. I can make the suppressor the length I need to work with whatever I have there. But again, the shorter, the less, the more sound you're going to hear, the longer, the quieter it will be. So keep that in mind. So there's a number of companies out there that makes that. This one here is one of them, while here is another one. This is the Erector by Q. So as I hold them, it is lighter, although, you know, it is longer, but it's also lighter. The material is lighter as opposed to this one. And again, lighter is great, but lighter rate of fire has to be a little bit reduced and so forth. I believe that this one is modular as well, or maybe not. So anyway, there is also the 22. Right? The 22 is very popular. It can be used in 22 handguns, in 22 rifles, and whatnot. 22 is already quiet, and when you put a suppressor device on it, it becomes even more quiet. So to recap, there is a bunch of different options out there. The paperwork is moving a lot faster. You know, this week we are getting, this upcoming week, we are getting the Silencer Shop kiosk, which will make the process even faster. We'll be able to do your fingerprints, biometrics, all that other stuff right here, instead of having to do it manually and shipping it out and taking some time. So the process is moving faster for cans and for SBRs and for short barrel shotguns, so forth. Now, what do you want the suppressor for? What are you going to put it on? Do you want the quietest you can get? Do you want the rate of fire? Do you want it to be light? What caliber do you want it for? Do you want it to put in multiple guns so you'll be able to take it out of one, put it in another, and so forth? Again, my recommendation will be find one that has the muzzle device so you can swap back and forth between firearms if that's what you want to do. Now, remember, the more you shoot, the more you're going to wear it out, and that's it. So I know this is a live. I wasn't looking at any of the questions that you guys had. So if there are any, I'm going to take a look at it now and answer. So if you have any further questions, hit us up on DM.